Here with our college football pick show here for Monday. Well, we're going to give you 11 picks here from week 12 for the games for Saturday. There's our 63 FBS versus FBF games this week, so we'll do them in 6 parts. We'll start part 1 today with those 11. Before we get into just a couple of things, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Free college football picks are updated all season long. Free picks every day from all the major sports. We also have NFL, NBA, college basketball, NHL, and more. It's a good time to subscribe. And also, if you would support our channel, like this video, thumbs up. Greatly appreciated. Then visit Tony'sPicks.com, our multi-capper site showcasing top cappers in our industry. Click the links to the hot cappers, get signed up to some of our long-term passes. Hot capper like Brandon, who's been on fire here. We got Ramon. Nick has been hot. I've been doing well in the NFL and college football. We got Collins as well. Click the links to get signed up to our long-term passes. Here you'll find our premium picks here on the center of the page. Our best bets. Each capper can release 1 best bet per sport per day. You'll see many of them are up there right now, as well as our $15 pick, where each capper can designate one of their picks on their card as a $15 premium pick, just to showcase their service to new and existing customers. Also, 3 packs are very good value. We got those up there as well. And our pick ticker, if you're looking for picks here, individual games. Our promo code, you can save 20% off all premium pick packages. When you use that promo code TonyT, you can access our page by clicking the link in the description, then the All Cappers tab, and get signed up. Also, love to hear from you guys, so post your picks in the comments below. And we are looking for cappers, so you can apply over at Tony's Picks footer section. And our podcast. We have every pick in podcast form. Search Tony's Picks on all major platforms. Let's get this one started. All right, we get started here with Navy and UCF college football pick here for Saturday. Navy fell 3-7 with their 35-32 home defeat to Notre Dame. Midshipmen did gain 360 yards in this one with 255 rushing on 46 attempts. Defensively, they held the Fighting Irish to less than 2 yards per rush, 269 yards passing on 21 attempts. Xavier Arline, 2 of 4 passing for 57 yards and a touchdown. He rushed 12 times for 59 yards and a touchdown. On the year, Arline, a 33% completion rate, 6.7 yards per attempt. He is rushing this year for 5 yards a carry. He was injured last week, so Masai Minor relieved, went 4 of 7 for 51 yards and a touchdown. He's more of the passer of the 3 quarterbacks on the Navy roster. UCF improved to 8-2 after their 38-31 road win at Tulane. Knights gained 475 yards with 343 rushing on 53 carries. On defense, UCF allowed nearly 6 yards per rush to the Green Wave with 236 passing on 39 attempts. John Plumlee completed 57% of his passes in the win, but only 4.4 yards per rush. He threw for 132 yards and a touchdown. This season, Plumlee has 63% completion rate, 8.2 yards per attempt. Midshipmen defending the run well this season. Maynard gives Navy a solid passing threat. The play here will be on Navy at plus the 17.5. UConn versus Army college football pick. This one is on Saturday. UConn improved to 6-5 with their 36-33 home win to Liberty. Huskies posted 318 yards with 208 rushing on 38 attempts. Defensively, UConn surrendered 6.5 yards per rush to the Flames with 207 passing yards on 39 attempts. Zion Turner completed 71% of his passes in the win with 4.9 yards per attempt. He threw for 303 yards with a touchdown and interception. On the year, the freshman has 61% completion rate with 5.4 yards per attempt. Army sits at 3-6 after their 10-9 road defeat at Troy. Midshipmen gained 357 yards, 275 rushing on 62 attempts. Defensively, the Black Knights allowed over 3 yards per carry to the Trojans with 192 passing yards on 31 attempts. Taylor went 2 of 5 for 40 yards. 2 of 5 for 52 yards. He rushed 27 times for 100 yards and a touchdown. On the year, he averaged 4.8 yards per carry and a 43% completion rate and 15.6 yards per attempt. UConn, well, they've covered 7 straight. They are bowl eligible. 6-win teams have really no guarantee of a bowl berth, so 7 wins will lock in a berth. Past 3 games, Huskies rushing for 4.8 yards per rush, and Army in this period allowing 4.6 yards per run attempt. Play will be on UConn plus the 10.5. Virginia Tech versus Liberty college football pick for Saturday. Virginia Tech fell to 2-8 with their 24-7 road defeat at Duke. Hokies gained 281 yards with 104 rushing on 26 carries. Defensively, they surrendered 4 yards per rush to the Blue Devils with 262 passing yards on 31 attempts. Grant Wells hit on 57% of his passes, 6.3 yards per attempt on the year, a 58% completion rate with 6.5 yards per attempt. Liberty fell to 8-2 with their 36-33 road defeat to Connecticut. Flames posted 474 yards of offense with 267 rushing on 41 attempts. Defensively, they limited the Huskies here passing game, but allowed 208 yards rushing on 38 carries. Jonathan Bennett completed 61% of his passes in defeat, 5.6 yards per attempt on the year. Bennett at 58% completion rate and 7 yards per attempt. Liberty defense at home holding teams at 315 yards and 3.7 yards per rush with 5.6 yards per pass attempt. On the road, the Hokies struggled to convert third downs, and they put up just less than 17 points a game. Play here will be Liberty at -9. Indiana versus Michigan State college football pick Saturday. Indiana drops to 3-7 with their 56-14 road defeat at Ohio State. Hoosiers offense produced only 269 yards with 150 rushing on 40 carries. Defensively, they allowed 8 yards per rush attempt with 322 passing yards on 30 attempts. Third string Dexter Williams saw the bulk of the action, completed 31% of his passes for 5.6 yards per attempt. On the season, Williams a 33% completion rate with 4.9 yards per attempt. Williams is in line for the start if Basilek doesn't play. Michigan State 5-5 with their 27-21 home win to Rutgers. Spartans posted 453 yards, 197 rushing on 35 carries. Defensively, they allowed over 5 yards per carry to the Scarlet Knights with 236 passing yards on 35 attempts. Peyton Thorne completed 54% of his passes in the win with 7.3 yards per attempt. He passed for 256 yards and 2 touchdowns. This season, Thorne a 63% completion rate with 7.1 yards per attempt. Hoosiers have lost 7 straight and failed to cover 3 straight. They have failed to cover all 4 on the road as their offense's average is 294 yards per game with 2.9 yards per attempt on the ground. On the road, Indiana is giving up 3.2 sacks a game. Best shot for Spartans to earn bowl eligibility is this game because they got Penn State on the road the following week. The play here will be Michigan State here at -11.5. Duke versus Pittsburgh college football pick for Saturday. Duke moved to 7-3 with their 24-7 home victory to Virginia Tech. Blue Devils posted 427 yards with 165 rushing on 41 carries. On defense, Duke held the Hokies to 4 yards per carry with 177 passing yards on 28 attempts. Riley Leonard completed 61% of his passes for 8.5 yards per attempt. On the year, a 64% completion rate with 7.6 yards per attempt. Pittsburgh moved to 6-4 after their 37-7 road victory to Virginia. Panthers gained 397 yards, 189 rushing on 48 carries. They returned 2 interceptions for touchdowns in the first quarter. On defense, they limited the Cavaliers to -8 yards rushing on 24 carries and limited the passing game. Keaton Slovis completed 58% of his passes with 8.7 yards per attempt. Slovis threw for 208 yards and a touchdown. On the year, Slovis a 59% completion rate with 7.6 yards per attempt. Duke has won 3 of 5 on the road with their losses by 7 or fewer points. Slovis' numbers have not been very impressive. The play here will be Duke at +8. Florida versus Vanderbilt college football pick for Saturday. Florida improved to 6-4 with their 38-6 home victory to South Carolina. Gators gained 515 yards with 374 yards rushing on 54 carries. Defensively, they limited the Gamecocks to less than 2 yards per rush with 193 passing yards on 27 attempts. Anthony Richardson completed 48% of his passes for 4.9 yards per attempt. He threw for 112 yards and 2 touchdowns. On the season, Richardson completes 55% of his passes with 7.6 yards per attempt. Vanderbilt sits at 4-6 after their 24-21 road victory at Kentucky. Commodores posted 448 yards with 264 rushing on 44 carries. Defensively, they surrendered 7 yards a carry to the Wildcats with 109 passing yards on 23 attempts. Mike Wright hit on 52% of his passes with 8 yards per attempt. He passed for 184 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. On the season, White has a 57% completion rate with 7 yards per attempt. Gators have got their offense clicking, averaging over 500 yards the past 2 games after facing Texas A&M on the road and South Carolina at home. Winning margins have been by double digits in those games. Past 3 games, Vanderbilt allowing nearly 5 yards per rush. The play here will be on Florida -14.5. Illinois versus Michigan college football pick Saturday. Illinois fell to 7-3 with their 31-24 home defeat to Purdue. Fine Illini gained 303 yards with 102 rushing on 33 carries. Defensively, they allowed nearly 4 yards per carry to the Boilermakers with 237 passing yards on 40 attempts. Tommy DeVito hit on 56% of his passes with 6.3 yards per attempt. On the year, DeVito a 70% completion rate with 7.3 yards per attempt. Michigan improves to 10-0 with their 34-3 home victory. To Nebraska, Wolverines gained 412 yards with 264 rushing on 49 carries. Offensively, they held the Cornhuskers to under 3 yards per carry with 71 passing yards on 20 attempts. J.J. McCarthy, a season-low 47% completion rate with 7.6 yards per attempt. This year, McCarthy, a season-low 47% completions with 7.6 yards per attempt. He threw for 129 yards and 2 touchdowns. On the year, McCarthy, a 69% completion rate with 8.2 yards per attempt. Fine Illini has covered 6 of 7 on the road. Past 3 games, their defense holding teams to 307 yards with 3.7 yards per attempt on the ground. Fine Illini has not been blown out in games this year as their defense has been strong. Play here will be Illinois plus the 17.5. Northwestern versus Purdue college football pick Saturday. Northwestern fell to 1-9 with their 31-3 road defeat at Minnesota. Wildcats gained 278 yards in this one with 72 rushing on 22 carries. Defensively, they contained the Golden Gophers' pass attack and allowed 302 yards rushing on 58 attempts. Brendan Sullivan left the game in the second half due to injury. On the year, Sullivan a 74% completion rate with 6.1 yards per attempt. Ryan Olinsky in relief last week completed 3 of 11 for 68 yards and a pick. He has thrown this season for 56% completion rate and 6.4 yards per attempt. Purdue, they're now 6-4 with their 31-24 road win at Illinois. Boilermakers posted 380 yards with 143 rushing on 32 carries. Defensively, they held the Fine Illini to just 3 yards per carry and 201 yards passing on 32 attempts. Aiden O'Connell completed 62% of his passes with 5.9 yards per attempt. He threw for 237 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. Past 3 games, Wildcats offense producing only 246 yards, 2.5 yards per rush. Boilermakers in this period running for 3.6 yards a carry. Now Northwestern has the defense to keep the scoring down. The play here will be on Purdue and Northwestern under 49.5. Wisconsin versus Nebraska college football pick Saturday. Wisconsin fell to 5-5 with their 24-10 road defeat to Iowa. Badgers gained 227 yards with 51 rushing on 31 carries. On defense, they limited the Hawkeyes to just over 1 yard per rush with 94 passing yards on 23 attempts. Graham Mertz completed 46% of his passes with 5 yards per attempt. He passed for 176 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. This season, Mertz a 58% completion rate with 7.8 yards per attempt. Nebraska dropped to 3-7 after their 34-3 road defeat at Michigan. Cornhuskers a season-low 146 yards with 75 rushing on 25 carries. Defensively, Nebraska allowed over 5 yards per rush to the Wolverines with 148 passing on 20 attempts. Chubba Purdy exited the game with an injury. Casey Thompson has a bad elbow. Third string Logan Smothers went 4 of 8 for 15 yards. On the season, Smothers a 52% completion rate with 5.1 yards per attempt. Cornhuskers have lost 4 straight. Past 3 games, Badgers holding opponents to 255 yards and 2.3 yards per attempt. Nebraska quarterback situation pretty messy. The play here will be on Wisconsin, Nebraska under 41. TCU versus Baylor college football pick Saturday. TCU moved to 10-0 after their 17-10 road win at Texas. Horned Frogs put up a season-low 284 yards with 160 rushing on 43 carries. On defense, they held the Longhorns to just over 1 yard per carry with 171 passing on 39 attempts. Max Duggan completed 65% of his passes in the win, but a season-low 4.3 yards per attempt. On this season here, Duggan career highs here, 66% completion rate, 9.3 yards per attempt. Baylor fell to 6-4 with their 31-3 home defeat here to Kansas State. Bears gained 306 yards with 103 rushing on 23 carries. Defensively, the Bears allowed over 4 yards per carry to the Wildcats with 221 passing on 35 attempts. Blake Shapen completed 58% of his passes with 5.3 yards per attempt. He passed for 203 yards and 2 interceptions. This season, Shapen a 65% completion rate with 7.7 yards per attempt. Past 3 games, Baylor allowing 404 yards and 4.6 yards per rush. The Bears have 2 losses at home. Play here will be TCU +2. Massachusetts versus Texas A&M college football pick Saturday. Massachusetts fell to 1-9 with their 35-33 road defeat at Arkansas State. Minutemen a season-high 475 yards with 168 rushing on 51 carries. On defense, they surrendered over 5 yards per rush with 142 passing yards on 18 attempts. Brady Olson completed 50% of his passes with 6.4 yards per attempt. He threw for 178 yards and a touchdown with 2 picks. This season, Wilson a 51% completion rate with 5.5 yards per attempt. Texas A&M fell to 3-7 after their 13-10 road defeat at Auburn. Aggies gained a season low of 215 yards with 94 rushing on 24 carries. Defensively, Texas A&M limited the Tigers' passing game but allowed 270 rushing on 55 carries. Connor Wegman completed 39% of his passes with 3.4 yards per attempt. This season, Wegman a 52% completion rate with 5.8 yards per attempt. On the road, UMass gains only 301 yards and allows 5.2 rushing per game. This could be a spot where the Aggies just let all out of their frustrations. Recent games, the Minutemen scored 10 at UConn, 13 at home to New Mexico State. The play here will be Texas A&M at -32. All right, that was our college football pick show here for Week 12, Part 1. I said we'll do it in 6 parts for the next 5 days. We'll get you some more picks from college football. We're going to get 63 done for this week. We got, 11 today, 11 the next day, 11 the next day, and then we'll do the final 3 days with 10 each. That's how we'll do it for this week's in college football. Guys, check out Tony'sPicks.com. Check out our page here for our best bets on our website. And be sure to check out the Morning Steam live here at 9 a.m. Eastern Time.